Velvet pearls and a blinding white mask. Elizabeth's court gleamed like a reliquary under candlelight. But behind the shimmer lay a body managed by rituals that would curl modern stomachs. This is not the sweet-smelling fairy tale of a virgin queen. It's the reek beneath the ruff, the sour steam behind the screen. The top 5 filthy habits that kept the Tudor body politic ticking while the queen turned herself into an icon. 5th, the throne behind the throne, the close stool. Picture a gilded box, padded in velvet, ribbons flirting at the edges, a pewter pan nested beneath. It is a portable loo, an upholstered confession where royalty met reality. No drains, no porcelain. A lady of the privy chamber stood guard on scent and schedule. And other attendants whisked the pan away through corridors that already groaned with the daily burden of a court 100 strong. In palaces like Hampton Court, lesser ranks shared communal jakes. Long benches of holes above pits that had to be emptied by nightmen. Even the king and queen traveled with their own close stools so the body's biography could continue discreetly wherever power slept. The velvet did not sanctify what happened there. It only perfumed the indignity. Historic royal palaces. But the smell did not stop with the royal box. Tudor palaces were machines that manufactured refuse as efficiently as they minted favor. Food scraps, rushes, chamber pots, unwashed bodies, and beasts merged their stenches. Waste accumulated in undercrofts until carts could haul it away. Within days of the court arriving, the air curdled to a permanent fug that seeped beneath tapestries and crawled up raftered ceilings blackened by smoke. Power had many perfumes. This was its most honest. History 4th. Laundry that fought filth with stronger filth. The linens that kissed royal skin chamises, smocks, sheets, were not caressed by lavender suds in a copper tub. They were bucked in lye and chamber lye, which is to say, stale human urine. It's ammonia prized as a powerful degreaser and whitener. Nines soaked overnight in the sharp stuff, pounded and wrung, then sluiced again and again, before being carried to bleaching fields and laid on grass beneath a pitiless sun. Clothing whispered of rosemary when it dried, but the miracle came from chemistry as raw as a stable floor. Outer garments, silks, velvets. Gold-laced triumphs were too fragile for such violence and rarely washed at all, only brushed, beaten, and perfumed. The court wore cleanliness like an underlayer and hid the rest with spectacle. And then there was the ruff, the snow-white halo strapped to every loaded portrait. The ruff's divine stiffness didn't come from innocence, it came from starch. The techniques sailed in from the Low Countries in the 1560s and bloomed into a cottage. Industry after a Flemish expert, Mistress Dingen van der Plas, set up shop in London. Wheat starch stiffened linen into serrated clouds that framed the royal face like a sundog. Sometimes tinted pale blue or faint rose, always hungry for restarching as sweat and dust chewed through those perfect pleats. The irony is brutal. That purity ring around the throat was a high-maintenance trap for grime pressed, and repressed with hot irons until it could stand on its own and declare a cleanliness it did not in fact possess. Fashion history. 3rd, the mouth that moved a kingdom and what rotted behind it. Sugar screamed luxury in Elizabeth's England, and the queen adored it comfits. 8. Marchpane, candied violets, sugared almonds that sparkled like treasure. Her contemporaries noticed what followed, teeth very yellow and unequal, and later, black glass markers turned into decay. Tooth powders were pumice, crushed shells, brick dust, and herbs. Mouthwashes burned with wine and vinegar. Extractions were brutal, avoidance understandable. By her later years, ambassadors strained to catch her words around the gaps. The court imitated the sovereign to the point of parody. Sweetened breath, darkened smiles, a fashion whose price was pain. There is nothing dainty about a throne room full of aching teeth. 2nd, the mask that made her immortal land poisoned the skin that wore it. The luminous white of Elizabeth's face was not blessing. It was chemistry, favorite foundation of the age, Venetian cirrus. Mixed white lead with vinegar into an immaculate paste that blanked the world's demands and covered smallpox traces with a page of snow. Rouge and lip tints could ride on mercury and sulfur. Blemish cures promised miracles that stripped the skin's defenses. To smooth the ruined surface, egg white was glazed over the face, tightening into a fragile shell. Long use corroded the very beauty it forged, modeling complexions, thinning hair, feeding a cycle of concealment so complete the mask became the monarch. In portraits, the marble goddess never ages. In life, the chemistry bit back. Cyrus didn't simply paint a lie. It demanded a daily war. Lead dried and cracked. Cleansers sharp with mercury scoured the face to ready it for tomorrow's lair. To hold the image intact, the queen entered a marriage with poison and intimate treaty between power and pain. Historians debate the exact medical cost, but no one doubts the ingredients were vicious enough to write their verdict upon the body. The whiteness was not chastity. It was armor that rusted from the inside. First, the living frontier of hair and the crawl of creatures that shared it. After a near-fatal smallpox in 1562, Elizabeth's hair thinned, and wigs flaming circlets of tight red curls became part of the state regalia. Wigs and hairpieces were the age's open secret, a theater on the scalp perfumed and pinned into place. But Tudor heads were also busy landscapes. Lice thrived in linen caps and seams, and even the clean changed shifts rather than wash outerwear. Archaeologists turn up fine tuft combs from the period with knits still lodged between their teeth mute, crawling footnotes to every resplendent portrait. Court ladies scraped and combed, powdered and pinned. Fashion defied biology every day and sometimes lost. If the face was a mask, the hair was a battlement under siege. All of this unfolded inside a broader choreography of bathing and not bathing that shocks modern minds for different reasons. Forget the cartoon about a once-a-year dunk. Elizabeth actually liked to bathe, and she made it theater. At Whitehall, she enjoyed a tiled sweating room, a Tudor sauna, and a lavish bathroom with elaborate waterworks that poured from oyster shells and rocky fountains. On the road, she traveled with a portable bath as carefully as she traveled with her throne, another chamber where sovereignty met skin. But even a bath-loving queen lived in a world where daily cleanliness meant linens against the flesh, not showers. A basin, a ewer, and a disciplined routine for hands, face, and feet. Perfumes and pomanders did the rest. In that scented compromise, an empire learned to speak over the body's insistence. Historic royal palaces. Put it together, and the glamour sharpens into something human and rank. A ruler whose toilet was a velvet box, whose sheets were bleached in urine, whose ruff was a starched dirt magnet, whose smile hurt, whose face was a treaty with lead, whose crowns of hair were both majesty and battleground. These were not eccentricities, they were systems. The Tudor court compressed thousands of bodies into tight, heated spaces and asked them never to smell of effort. It demanded a saint's radiance from a mortal frame and bullied chemistry into compliance. Even mercy had a scent. Even prayer had a laundry bill. Consider the daily parade of attendants required just to keep the illusion afloat. A lady of the bedchamber laying out fresh linen while another checks the water in the ewer. Laundresses bucking shifts in tubs that sting the nose and raw the knuckles. Starchers pinning roughs on boards. Then breathing clouds of steam over pleats that must not falter. Apothecaries decanting vinegars and oils grinding powders that blur the line between remedy and risk. It's barbers and peruke makers combing, curling, and ever combing again. Behind one painted, serene face pulsed the industry of an entire age trying to outpace its own biology. And then think about what these habits meant as politics. The close stool was a court office by another name. Who entered that chamber gained proximity no petition could buy. Laundry became diplomacy, favors rendered in clean linen, insults remembered in stains. A sugar banquet was propaganda, the royal body consuming wealth in a spectacle that printed itself onto her teeth. Cosmetics were governance. The white mask told a country its queen was unaging, unharmed, untouched. Hair, natural or not, was banner and mitha, red blaze that said the body of England would not thin, would not fade, would not bow. We like to imagine the past as irredeemably dirty and ourselves as finely clean. But that smugness misses the point. Tudor filth was not laziness. It was the logical end of the technologies and beliefs of the time. Ammonia was a miracle before surfactants. Lead whitened like nothing else before titanium dioxide. Sugar was the edible jewel of an emerging global trade. A rough needed starch the way a jet needs fuel. The disgust is real, but so is the ingenuity, and the terrible prices paid by bodies drafted into the service of symbols. The next time a portrait of Elizabeth catches your breath, the lace nebula about her neck, the marbled face, the small crimson mouth, remember the damp rooms behind it. Remember the pan lifted from the velvet box and sloshed down a service stair? Remember the laundress heaving a sodden chemise from bucking tub to rinsing stream? Remember the starcher's scalded fingers, the apothecary's powders nesting poison beside perfume, the fine comb pulling a white egg from a copper strand? Remember the bite of sugar that seemed like heaven until it wasn't? That is the scent track beneath the music of Gloriana. These 5 habits, stool and cess, chamberlain and starch, sugar and rot, lead and glaze. Lice and wigs are the backstage of magnificence. They are sickening, yes, but also revealing. The ways a world without plumbing, germ theory, or safe chemistry still insisted on purity and majesty, and managed both with a brutal creativity we would rather not smell too closely. The queen did not rise above the human. She wrestled it into pageantry, and the pageantry, white as snow, sharp as a rough's edge, was stitched together by hands raw with the very filth it pretended not to know.